Now I have to say it right. Amalda? Amalda? And viva ANC. Viva. Viva Nelson Mandela. And viva South Africa. Viva. Thank you very much for really having me. This is a great pleasure. And you pronounced my name in a very good way. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for this.
We welcome you with a song. That's how we do it in South Africa.
Yeah, of course. Bravo, bravo. It is truly an honor, our chair, our leader, tonight to be here today to celebrate with you, to be with you on the occasion of the 112th anniversary of the African National Congress. Before I start, allow me to thank, now I'm going to have issues with pronunciation, our brother, our comrade Tandele, did I say it right? Tandele?
Yes.
Nombeko?
Yes.
Nombeko, and you and all the team here and all the vibe here and the members of the ANC branch in the UK. And allow me also to take the opportunity to thank the ANC and South Africa generally for the steadfast solidarity. You brought Arafat and the history between our leaders and new leaders, from Arafat and Nelson Mandela all the way today to the current leaders. It is impossible for me to adequately do justice to how important South Africa case before the International Court of Justice has been to us. Not just to the cause of justice, but to the morale of the Palestinian people at a time when many feared we had been forgotten. South Africa was there. You didn't forget. How could you forget? If anyone understands the Palestinian plight, it is the people of South Africa. Because we are almost the same. Not almost, we are the same. Many similarities. The South African struggle against apartheid and the Palestinian struggle of liberation. Your struggle started because of colonial conquest. Our struggle started because of colonial conquest. You fought a system that considered you less than human. We are fighting the occupier that considers us less than human. You fought not just a system, but a world, a Western world, that supported your oppressors. That system, the apartheid system.
Yes.
You are fighting not just our occupier. And all of us are not just fighting the oppressors, the occupiers, the colonizers, but we are also fighting all those complicit who support their illegalities, their occupation, their subjugation, their colonization, their besiegement. You suffered indignity after indignity, massacre after massacre, and we are suffering indignities every day, from military checkpoints to military courts. We are being massacred as we speak. Israel, as you know, is engaged in a genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, and indeed a slow genocide against the Palestinian people everywhere, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. You had 8 decades of struggle. 8 decades of struggle. If we count from the beginning of the ANC, that's 112 years. For your most basic rights, you struggled. You fought. The right to be treated equally in your homeland, on your land, equal to all others. The right to live in dignity and freedom. You never gave up. And you triumphed. You won. It has been over 100 years for us. 100 years of oppression, but 100 years of struggle. And we will not give up. Because ours, like yours, is a struggle for our most basic rights, our birthrights, the right to freedom, the right to independence, the right to equality. And we look to you for inspiration. We do. I'm very moved today, and I've been telling my team and my colleagues how moved I am to be in this community center in the north of London, celebrating the 112th anniversary of the ANC. It means a lot, especially where I come from just now, a massive, massive demonstration for Palestine in the center of London. It all connects. And like yours, my friends and brothers and sisters, my comrades, our struggle raised important questions about the world and its order, the world order. How it is, for instance, that despite the very obvious evidence of law breaking, breach of international law, of discrimination, of racism, of the unhinged violence that countries of the world fail again and again to take steps to hold Israel accountable. How is it that it always seems to be the major Western countries, powers, who are the most avid supporters of this kind of racial repression, as they were with apartheid South Africa? Same club. What lessons can we draw from the completely transparent double standards that we suffer? Duplicity, selectivity, hypocrisy. I think the primary lesson is this: the world order is broken. It's broken. It is broken not because it is a bad idea. It is broken not because it is an impossible idea. It is not even broken because the United Nations is set up and established badly. Though we have issues with the UN system, with the Security Council, with the permanent members, with the veto powers, but still that is not the reason. It is broken because of a few, very few, powerful countries who do not accept to abide by the laws equal to others. Simple as that. It is broken because a few powerful countries, governments, do not accept to be held equally to account. It is broken because those powers have their own interests, vested interests, and are prepared to subjugate themselves to the rule of law and are not prepared to allow their allies to be held accountable. When it comes to their friends and their allies, rules vanish. Right? The US, for instance, has had a Hague Invasion Act on its books since 2002 that allows a US president any means to intervene should US officials or military personnel stand trial in The Hague. Military intervene. Any means, including military action. It also allows the US to protect allies in the same manner, including, of course, Israel. The international system, my friends, is clearly broken when the world's highest court is in effect under threat from the world's most powerful country if the court should find individuals of that state have committed crimes against humanity or war crimes. The international order is skewed in favor of some. And when those countries or their allies are accused of breaking the law, they can protect themselves from scrutiny, they can protect themselves from accountability, and they can carry on breaking the law. That's our history. There are few clearer examples than Israel and the apartheid South Africa. Those are the strikest, most clear examples. Eventually, and after far too many decades of oppression, of racism, and of murder and injustice, the countries of the world came together to help end the apartheid system in South Africa. And I must say it was the people of the world. But for how long did the world sit and watch as country organized itself in a racial hierarchy, placing white as at the top and the black at the bottom? The world was watching in silence South Africa for decades. Right? How long did the world sit and watch this clear injustice even as they loudly proclaimed their own high standards and their own high values? It took far too long and exacted far too high a price from you. We have to believe that eventually the world will come to its senses over Palestine. But what we are seeing does not fill us with any confidence. The world's few superpowers are still, including the UK by the way, have been in open support for an Israeli military assault on our people in Gaza that, as you may have been following, have already killed nearly 30,000 innocent people, mostly children and women. This is clearly intent on pushing the Palestinian people in Gaza out of the homeland. It's a genocide and mass expulsion that has destroyed everything. Israel has destroyed homes. 70% of Gaza's housing stock is gone. They have destroyed churches, mosques, hospitals, schools. 370 schools, that's 70% of Gaza's school stock. All of Gaza's universities have been destroyed, the 12 of them. Makes a mockery. All this has made a mockery of international law, and it makes a mockery of our humanity. To normalize the scenes of mass murder of children should not be in our time and age. To normalize the destruction of homes and civilian structures is very, very alarming to how it will shape our future. This has played out live on our TV sets, your TV screens. This is the first time a genocide is actually transmitted live by the ones who are committing the genocide and documented by the ones who are being executed. People are filming their own execution in Gaza. And this is really giving the biggest challenge for our humanity, for the world, and for the order and the system that we built together. And by the way, people say these are Western values. No, these are universal values that we built, the system of the world, after the horrors of the Second World War. The values of freedom and justice, the values of no wars, of peace and stability, the values of equality is not a Western values, it is a global values. The South African values. And we built it together and we committed together to build that system. That system is being broken. And therefore, my friends, the international order needs saving. We must save the international order. It needs fixing. Above all, it needs rescuing from its captivity by a few powerful countries. Few. The question is how? We are approaching the end of the US-dominated unipolar world. We are. We are approaching the end of history. You know that saying, the end of history? We are approaching the end of history, if you like. There was a brief moment when it seems that the Western model of liberal democracy would carry the day and carry the world forward. But that moment was not long-lived. Squandered. Not necessarily because there is anything wrong with the values of this model, with the liberal democratic values, the Western values. Globalization, and I was a student here in the late 90s. Globalization brought some good to many places. We became a one small village, but it also brought the West into a confrontation between its values and its own interests. Between the values and the interests. The two, as it happened, were not the same. The two were incompatible. Because what matters most to some Western countries were its interests, not the building of a better world. And the international system was ill-equipped to resolve that contradiction. So we are seeing the beginning of a multipolar world. Multipolar world. And this is something we must welcome and adapt to. The increasing assertiveness of countries like South Africa and others in the South, in the East, is something we must welcome. We need. We're done with the unipolar world. The world cannot be controlled by one. The world belongs to all of us. And it is something we should support. There is strength in numbers. There is strength in diversity. And when confronted with the powerful, strength in numbers is perhaps the only effective counterbalance. So it has to be about all of us. The ANC understood this very well in its struggle with the apartheid regime. You understood the power of numbers. The growing alliance of the countries of the South and East can provide a balance to the powerful countries and few countries of the West, but also the people of the West. The millions that I see in the streets of London, in Manchester, in Scotland, in Wales, and the millions outside in Europe, in America, this isn't about the people. This isn't about the people of the West. But this is certainly about the governments of the West. But it must be an alliance of law and principle. If we are to save the international order, we need to reimagine an international order that is truly a community of nations under one law, one rule. Not a rule for this and a rule for that. Law cannot be subdivided. And I'm sure we have lawyers here. South Africa understands this. This is why it brought its charge of genocide against Israel to the ICJ. And that is why the ICJ has taken on this case. Israel is now officially on trial for genocide, and thanks to South Africa, and I would have to applaud for that. It is a hugely important moment. But it is not just Israel that is on trial. It is the entire world order that is on trial. We must not waver in our determination to see this case through. Because if Israel is allowed to get away with what it is doing, the international order is finished. It's finished. And the readjustment to a new and lawless world order will be long, hard, and painful for all of us. All of us. This is what is at stake in Palestine. This is not just a battle for liberation. This is a battle for global humanity. It's a battle for all of us, my friends. There are many similarities between our struggles. In both cases, in South Africa and Palestine, we have something that is obviously right, pitted against something that is obviously wrong, that is naturally wrong. We have, in our case, an expansionist, supremacist, colonial regime that is absolutely determined to eliminate the native population. Our history with it, not just the population. Our culture, our ability to resist in order to completely dominate the land of Palestine. All of it. The apartheid regime tried to do the same in South Africa. But such projects are offensive. They are offensive to any moral standard. They are offensive to any moral individual. That's why we see millions of people in the streets of London and in the streets of, Brussels and Washington and what have you. They are offensive to history. They ultimately prove offensive to the world down the line. The ANC understood that its moral case was the strongest weapon in its armory. Your moral case. It took this moral case to the peoples of the world by passing governments. And it built a global people's movement for change that ultimately proved irresistible. You built a global movement. And you understood the power of the people. And you knew that it's only the people who will bring down the apartheid regime, not governments. We remember, we know, in the 80s, the Thatcher government was not really anti-apartheid or the Reagan administration, but the British people were, and the American people were. And we remember that actually the anti-apartheid, the global anti-apartheid movement was centered in London. It emanated here. That's why we take a lot of pride and inspiration in what is happening in a very similar way to Palestine now in the streets of London. And therefore, my friends, you prevailed because you understood that there is strength in the many, and you bypassed the few. And just like you, we understand this strength. We do. And we are building this movement, and we want you to build it with us. You know best. We are building this movement, and we are not building it now. This movement since your childhood, and since you have been following Yasser Arafat, this movement is being built. But now is the time that we learn from your experience and build it to go all the way. I have just come from yet another massive demonstration here in London, as I said earlier. Hundreds of thousands took to the streets, again, to protest for Palestinian rights, to protest their own governments and government position, to demand an immediate ceasefire. Hundreds of thousands have taken to the streets every week in the UK, every single week. Massive, unprecedented. Not only in the UK, all over Europe, all over the US, Africa, Asia, all the corners of the globe. And the few powerful may look at such popular movement with disdain, with disapproval, with disbelief. They, after all, have the power. They do, the few. But they also know they are the few, and they fear such popular movements. They do fear the popular movements. They will do everything to stop you and to stop us and to stop these movements gaining more momentum. They will slander them, as they did during the anti-apartheid movement. They will try to prevent them from voicing their opposition. They will try to ignore the movement. But they will fail. They must fail. Because they failed with you. And they will fail with us. They must fail, my friends, because rules and the rule with impunity by the few can only be maintained with violence. They must fail because rule with impunity. If you rule with impunity, the only way you can maintain your rule with impunity is by violence. There is no other alternative. They have no other options but violence. That's why they are destroying entire neighborhoods. It has no legitimacy. This has no legitimacy. And it has precisely this lack of legitimacy that offers us a space to mobilize, to work, to advance. Because our cause has resonance. The Palestine cause has resonance. Because it's about our human values. It's about every and each one of us. Because people by nature side with justice. All people, by the way. They have been blocked from knowing the situation. Media did not help, but they are now getting the truth. It is precisely this lack of legitimacy that offers us a space and a growing space, because our cause has been attracting millions of people. Just like your cause has resonance and had resonance. The same. Huge resonance. And the fact is, the vast majority of the world is composed of decent people. And I see here, okay, primarily South Africans, but I also see British and diverse audience. It does and it did attract a wide people and decent people, because people like fairness. I think the main word that if you really ask the key sort of public, it's fairness. People like to be fair and to see others treated fairly and to see themselves treated fairly. I think fairness is a key word that connects all of us together. And they object to injustice. And nothing is more obviously unjust today than the situation in Palestine. Nothing is more unjust than the situation in Palestine. This killing with impunity, destruction with impunity, the besiegement of people, the theft of their land and the resources, the rounding of their children without trial and without recourse to justice. But the arc of the moral universe, my friends, is long. You know who said that? The arc of the moral universe is long. That was Martin Luther King, another great leader. But he adds that arc of moral universe is long, but it bends always towards justice. It has taken time. In your case, it took time. In our case, it is taking time. And for tens of thousands of innocent people, it is already too late. But more and more people are beginning to understand the wisdom of our late and our actually leader, Nelson Mandela, when he said that freedom is incomplete, the South Africa freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. It is this sense of togetherness, it is this sense of unity of our faith and of our sufferings. It is this sense of unity of our values and our goals that have helped topple the apartheid regime. And we are so proud that we, the Palestine National Movement, we, the Palestinian people, have been hand in hand with the ANC during the apartheid time. Because your battle is our battle. It is this sense of togetherness that will help in the end the Israeli occupation, supremacy, colonization, impunity. It is with your help and the help of the people of the world. It is with your solidarity, with your moral standing. I have no doubt that one day we, the Palestinian people, too, shall be free. That's a fact. That's a destiny. I have no doubt that there will be a great awakening in the world today about what is happening in Palestine, thanks to your kids and the younger generations and the social media and this explosion of information bypassing the mainstream media that has blocked people and knowledge. This is a momentous moment. It's painful, but it is momentous. And I believe that Palestine will come to not only free itself, but will help all of our comrades, brothers and sisters worldwide to change our world as well. To change the international order to a fairer, more equitable order. An order for all of us. It will propel us into a better future, we hope. One of accountability. One of peace under law. We are at an inflection point, my friends. This is a defining moment. And I see it, I feel it. We are at one of those rare moments in history where what we do next truly will matter for many future generations. We must not waver. We must not falter. We must continue together in the struggle for justice and the struggle for a liberated Palestine. And we must continue that struggle for a better world for all of us, for our children here. The people are there. We have the people in their millions. They are ready. And wherever we go, people are there. They are ready and they are willing. In their millions, in their tens of millions, in their hundreds of millions. So, congratulations to the ANC. Yes, you have blazed a trail. You did. 112 years ago. You blazed a trail. You have shown us all that there is, and you have shown us that light at the end of the tunnel is absolutely true. You cannot miss it. After darkness comes light, and you have stayed true to that course to become champions of justice, and you have become a champions of justice worldwide and in Palestine as well. And we are following your footsteps in solidarity, in power. So long live Africa, and long South Africa, and long live your legacy and your freedom. And the last I would say is Amalda again, Amalda. Thank you, thank you.
Down with apartheid Israel.
Down.
Manza! Awetu! Viva ANC! Viva! Viva! Viva ANC! Viva! Viva! Viva the Palestinian Liberation Organization! Viva! Viva!